film is directed by Elia Kazan, stars Spencer Tracy
and
Katherin
Katherin Hepburn. What could possibly go wrong?
And it's by a book which I suppose was a bestseller at the time. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, why? This must be but actually the numbers bear it out. They put about 2.5 million into the movie and they got 4.5 million out of the movie. That's decent.
It's decent for that time. It's decent, but not great, because they're used to having like a tenfold return on movies in that time.
On the superstar movies, yes.
Yeah.
But this is the same
And
year.
they are superstars. The Spencer Tracy and Katherin Hepburn are superstars. Elia Kazan is also. It's the same year he did Gentleman's
Agreement. It's like he's up against himself for Gentleman's Agreement, which won all the awards.
Yeah.
So.
And this could be earlier in the year that he didn't. He didn't get a bunch of things he wanted to get, because it's called The Sea of Grass. It's about the Midwest when it was still a grassland, and he wanted to go to the Midwest in a grassland, and the studio said no.
Oh, not on location filming. Yeah, that does drag it down.
Stock imagery of the grassland. I do have to say, when we were watching the movie, if I didn't know that it was not the grassland,
looked good.
It looked really good.
There were several scenes where I could hear it in the sound. I could hear it was a sound stage, the farmhouse, etc. But the looks were good. Yeah. The grassland was convincing. The New Mexico landscape was convincing. And it's black and white. You already lose a lot there.
Yeah. And it's 1947, so being black and white was still kind of the norm. They only did color for really glitzy stuff at that point.
Epics and
3 years later, I think that then only sad stuff is in black and white, and everything else is in color. So they missed it by a couple of years.
Yeah, and the black and white is not the thing that held Gentleman's Agreement down at all, because that's also in black and white. Yeah. And they actually did go on location. As far as I know, they did go to New York. So,
but they have the New York stage, complete New York sound stage at Hollywood. So,
and maybe that's what Elia Kazan was complaining about, because it's like, well, I just went to, or I'm going to whatever part of the year they were filming Gentleman's Agreement for. Then it's like, yes, we go on location for these things, because the location in this film is actually a massive point of the movie. But
it's still early. 47 is too early.
And they couldn't have gone just beyond the back lot and gone into the desert that was behind.
They did. For a couple of scenes where they're driving around with some buggies, that's obviously not a soundstage. It's California. I'm sure if you're local, you can see. Yeah, that rock is California rock. But to us, it's just a rock.
There was one rock where I thought, is that the Kirk rock with he fights the dude?
Could have been.
So. It's possible, but I don't think that's what led the movie down. And it's certainly not Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
Hepburn worked her butt off.
Yes,
because
she acted her heart out.
Because the story
she had nothing to work with.
The story of the lady and the gentleman, and the gentleman is a silent. Spencer Tracy is the gentleman. He's strong and silent.
Emotionless.
So emotionless, strong and silent. And she has to play against it. And he cannot help. I mean, I can see it in Spencer Tracy's eyes. He wants to help her, but he can't.
And I feel that he did give her that. It's like, okay, bounce off of me so that, I can be the robust, silent type and not give you what you need, so you can try bouncing. And she actually, she kind of walks around him a couple of times and around him again, because to show that she's the one who's trying to move this relationship forward and she needs people. He does not need people. He probably only needed a baby machine, which is very, very normal in the history of everything. Yeah, but that men marry women in remote places. They kind of like import them, and then they just, apart from babies.
He did a little bit better than that, because he did realize that she would need a nice parlor, so he gave her enough money and things and stuff to get that done. However, he never gave her emotional availability, and he never gave her friends, female friends.
He did. He said yes to having her friend and the husband of the friend do the homesteading on his land.
Which he didn't want.
He didn't want it. He said they're going to be gone in 6 months, which is exactly what happened.
What he could have done...
But he could have done it better. But this is what she asked for, and she said, I need friends, and this is my only friend in this area.
And what he should have done, because the husband of the lady friend was actually an unemployed farmer, was employ both him and her in his household. So there would be a woman on... in the place.
Her, yes, but the problem is he's a farmer. He wanted his own farm, and that's that era.
Yeah,
everybody was promised their own farm.
And I understand, but then you come back to the plot of the film, which the plot of the film is not the plot of the film. That's the problem with this film, is that it tells you, it appears to tell you an epos of this young lady who goes to a farm, and there's stuff going on, and then and time goes passes and stuff happens. But the reason I wanted you to watch this movie is because I've seen this movie like 30 years ago, just the one time, and I remembered the court case, and I remembered, and when you talked about the Grapes of Wrath, I was going, This is the stuff.
That story.
This is the stuff that happened before. This is the story of how the Dust Bowl happened.
Yes.
And I remember that.
That's why it's important, and that's one of the reasons why I feel this movie, the script at least, lets us down completely, because it actually doesn't tell that story. It gets so caught up in the woman and the man and the affair and the baby, and oh my god, and he even kills the son at the end. It's like, whoa, you know. That is not the story. That is like that's a Harlequin. Well, not a Harlequin. It's a Harlequin history book, and the story should be the two of them. They're in this situation. He understands what this land needs. Nobody else seems to understand it. If you start farming it with anything other than cow cattle, then you're going to ruin the land, and he knew it was going to happen. And there's nothing he could do to stop it. But he also goes around about it the wrong way. Is that the very first court case, which is pretty much the second scene, where she walks in because he didn't show up for the wedding in where she was, so she went to him, is about some thugs are on trial for beating up a farmer, and it turns and Spencer Tracy character says something really good about that the land is going to wreck and ruin if you farm it in the way that these farmers want to do it. But the court case is about these thugs who built up a farmer. These thugs were hired by our Spencer Tracy character, so he's the bad guy. And so this is not, and kind of I feel that the entire story, and that's maybe me in the original book, and that's why it's in here, is everybody is wrong. Everybody is wrong. He's wrong. Yeah, she's wrong. She's wrong for later going with the wrong. Doing the affair.
The guy she gets the affair with is wrong because he does the affair, and B, he wants to farm the land, and everybody does the wrong thing. Everybody does the wrong thing. It's unbelievable.
That's not sympathetic to look at. When the movie started and you had her and she's all plucky back in Denver or wherever she came from, and then she's super plucky, and then she's going to marry this guy, so instead he can't make it to the wedding because...
St. Louis. She came from St. Louis.
And then he can't, so he's in New Mexico, and she's set to marry him. Apparently they've met. It's not like
I don't think they've met.
There's the promise or whatever.
I don't think they met.
I thought they had met. Well, that was me making that up then. And anyway, so my brain was making a lot out of this because she gets on that train and she's talking to the woman and they get a really good friendship. So I go, okay, that's already one person she's going to know there. She's full. She's 100% in. She walks into that court case and she sees Spencer Tracy like owning the place and saying the right things. It sounds like saying the right things. And she's really like, that's my guy. And yes, we're getting married now. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I want to see this movie of this really awesome, let's call it power couple. And if not a power couple, then at the very least she's going to stand behind him. In Giant, it was of course, not a Dust Bowl situation, but that did happen. Oh. They did become a power couple, and he was, he was a completely different style of man and not what she had bargained for back in DC. But
and the same thing applies here.
My brain was there. I was like, oh, and it's Spencer Tracy, and it's Katherin Hepburn, and I've never heard of this movie, and
it's going to be awesome.
Good and thud.
Yeah, fun. And I think what would have saved it is because the thing just peters out after 20 years of history.
And all of that.
It just peters out. What would have saved it, and what Elia Kazan should have done if he had the room to do it, because I don't know.
He may not have had. You never know.
Is he should have ended it with a court case.
Yes.
One at the beginning and one at the end.
I was expecting
so where Spencer Tracy can at least say something, he may still be in the wrong, but he can at least stand up and say something and make a closing argument.
Can he even say, I wasn't right either, but it is still the important message that this movie should have in 1947, when they were, at that point, they were re-agriculturizing those pieces of land that had become Dust Bowl in Oklahoma, in places like that. Because they had gone through the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl had done nobody any good, and now they had the money and the technology to make it proper land again. Yep. And they were doing great work. And in 1947, this movie should have actually ended saying, to this future, to the now, to their now, saying, and we can save this land. There should have been whatever the good thing could have been come out of it, and the mea culpa from Tracy character.
And the Spencer Tracy character does say earlier that irrigation needs to happen. Yeah. He does say a bunch of these things, but he says it's not quite. He should have said it in a big finale at the end. There is no big finale. That's a big failing of this movie, because you have this tension arc that goes absolutely nowhere. And it's not.
And that marriage didn't need to go through that.
Oh yeah,
the kids didn't need to grow up without a mom.
And I think that's because the book, the central story of the book, which I haven't read, but that's what I'm extrapolating, is that the central book says everybody is in the wrong. So if the farmers are in the wrong, and the landowner is in the wrong, and the lawyer is in the wrong, then also the ladies need to be in the wrong, and so everybody is in the wrong, including the son that is born from the infidelity. He's absolutely in the wrong.
And I hate that, because that is such a crap storyline. Yeah. Because the son and the daughter, they're the new generation. They could have taken this up and said, "Mom, Dad, I get all this stuff that happened, and that was then. This is what we're doing now." Again, you could bring it into that now. You could bring it into a positive future. They had just come out of Second World War. They had been victorious in the Second World War. They skip all. I mean, it's not in this film because it stops way before that.
It stops 1905, I believe, something like that.
So that's actually too early to make that point.
But you can still say, you can still write in a closing speech, in a trial. You can have the Spencer Tracy character say something towards the future, and
he can also say, "I also made mistakes." Yeah. Because of the way I was raised and the way men are supposed to be, because that is effectively what he's dealing with. He is completely emotionally unavailable. He brings her to, as like a romantic thing, he brings her to the grass, and she goes, "Oh, I'm trying to feel what you feel when you look at the grass." Okay, great. She's trying, but he's not really. He's just saying, "Here's great grass. I love this grass. I want to look at this grass for the rest of my life. And here's you." That's not romantic.
No.
So
it's also not available. I mean, you don't have to be.
That's why she left.
You don't have to be
unavailable.
You don't have to be romantic in order to keep a relationship, but you have to invest emotionally into it.
Yes. So, can I say that I think that there is an LGBTQ bubble in this film? Jeff the cook.
Ah. Yeah,
Jeff the cook
who lives in the house with
raises the kids.
Yeah, and he
helps decorate.
And in a house that basically had a mistress, but then she left, and then only had a little girl, and the rest is men.
And the
entire place is just men.
He's not at any time is he saying, "Hey, I need to have my own farm," or "I need to go find a wife," or anything like that. No. He's gonna be the babysitter, and then later
and the cook.
And he's already the cook and basically all of the household staff. And he is going to then raise the kids as a nanny, and he does it as a man.
Yeah, very manly.
And I find that, you can see that as okay, straight doesn't have to be an LGBTQ bubble. However,
well, it's sort of gender roles. It's gender roles.
Yes, so there's at least a gender role thing going on there. Yeah. But I like to think that there could be an LGBTQ bubble. He could be the coded gay person in.
He could.
Yeah,
it's a little early. At 47, they couldn't have anything overt at all.
No,
another 25 years before.
That's why I'm saying, if it doesn't say it's not, let's assume it is, because they just couldn't put it in. So. Yeah.
And I want to make a commendation for the gal who played the daughter, Phyllis Thaxter. I have not seen her in anything else, but because she plays Katherin Hepburn's daughter as a young lady, she copied Katherine's behavior so beautifully. I mean, a combination for that, a combination for the clothing, the dresses, because it's set in two periods, in 1880s and then in 1905 about. Yeah. And so Katherin Hepburn character is wearing all these 1880s small bustle period, a little bit of a bustle, but beautiful, and she has the figure for it too. But that helped, but with the right corset. Mm-hmm. The costume department was. Wonderful on that. And then the daughter wears the 1905 outfits, and Katherin of the 1905 also wears the 1905. The hairdo, she wears the Gibson hair and the hats. This is good stuff. The gentleman's fashion is always a little bit samey. You have a lapel here or a lapel there. It doesn't really matter, but it was pretty okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially that kind of stuff, because you're talking period piece. Even in 47, this was a period piece. It was almost 50 years earlier that they are setting it. So we would love to see. I think it's worth going color for it, but if they didn't have money to go on location, they certainly didn't have money to go on color.
It's probably the stock footage they used may have not been in color at all, so you have to go black and white.
Mm-hmm. And the cast was fairly small. Yeah, the only time you see a large cast is the outdoor scenes in town when there's hustle and bustle going on, and that's only in the second, last third of the movie that there's any, because they're out in the countryside and there's nobody. That's one of the issues.
They're all alone. I think this film is, even though Elia Kazan directed it and Spencer Tracy, this is what I call a tea time drama. It's meant for, it doesn't go deep enough to say this is a good movie as such, and as an important movie. It made that the speech at the beginning is worth seeing at the trial. That's a good speech, but it tells you the entire story already, and then you can go home, and then you can rest. You can watch Katherin Hepburn
and the family
work her butt off.
Yeah, the family story is just not worth it. No. For a good family drama. Go, then watch Giant. Yeah, they do it right.
And this is just simply the script and the choice of not having it go somewhere, which I think that is probably on Elia Kazan, because that's his job to make sure that the movie is a movie.
Could he have saved it
by having a trial at the end or some other closing thing at the end?
Change something.
Nothing.
And sometimes directors come into a project late because somebody else quit. So if that was the case, then it's a lot. What can you make of it? But you still have Katherin Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, and apparently,
and they tried.
The rest of the cast were no slouches.
Everybody was good at what they were given to do. Yeah.
But if you say watch a Katherin Hepburn and a Spencer Tracy movie, you would never put this on the list. Just never. If you're an absolute fan, you will watch it because you just want to see all they've done, and then it's really worth watching.
Yeah, but it's really in the top 25. It's going to be a top number 23.
Yeah, or 26.
No, it's not that bad. I mean, I did see it now twice, and I did from what I remember. And the thing is, I remember it from like 30 years ago. I remember that speech at the beginning. And actually I thought that was the speech at the end, because that's where I would expect it to be.
Yeah.
But it was at the beginning. And so I expected it to be another speech at the end. So I was really surprised. But all the elements that made up how the Dust Bowl was created, they are in here. They're just not as prominent as they could have been. For a film that had like 5 writers on it, I think maybe even...
Oh, that may be the problem.
They had a novel, and it had two screenplay writers, and then somebody contributed to the screenplay uncredited.
No, there's just too many fingers in the pot, too many cooks in the kitchen. Get Jeff. Jeff can do it all by himself and raise the family. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes, and get him a lovely husband. I would like that. That would be
you
nice.
You don't know if he didn't have a lovely husband. We don't know if he had a lover.
Just not a live-in one, but...
And those dresses. I mean, those dresses were pretty good.
It was gorgeous. And I still think that it looked good.
Yeah.
The scenes at the ranch and the scenes in town, they all looked good. And of course the train. You can always film in a train.
Yep.
That always looks great.
Yep. So that's my opinion.
And my opinion.
And we're sticking to it.